Self-preservation is not spite. If you react to somebody's disrespect by pulling away, you're not wrong for that. I don't care what we see on all of these pages that tell you that's dismissive, avoidant attachment style. That's unhealthy. You're withdrawing, or, somebody in a relationship with you that wants to continue disrespecting you is going to tell you, or you being spiteful, you going tit for tat. No, that's self-preservation. Now, if you've been communicating and doing your part, it's self-preservation. If it's just you trying to just get a reaction out of them, you ain't did your part to communicate, I'm not talking to you. But for those of y'all that feel so inauthentic to yourself, almost like a self-betrayal because you keep on going forward, you keep on giving yourself to somebody who's playing in your face, I'm here to tell you, it is not your fault that you are pulling away. Just like anything else in life, if you play with it, if you take it for granted, you're eventually going to lose it. Maybe you lose it all at once, maybe you lose it in stages, but you're going to lose it. Matter of fact, tell me something. How is it that a man is supposed to earn you every single day, but even on the days, weeks, months, he don't earn you, he still gets the same you? Help me understand that. Help me understand. I was charging my car, I was checking my email, and I saw a sister ask a question about how she should continue staying put in a relationship. I'm not talking about like not cheating or something like that. She trying to continue showing up as the fullest version of herself, even for a man that ain't doing nothing but draining her. Now, of course, if you listen to it, I'm hoping that she heard herself even say it out loud or read it as she typed it. It don't even make sense. How are you going to continue pouring from your cup and this person is continuously just taking from your cup, ain't pouring in your cup? In fact, what they pouring in your cup is poison. Like, what do you think is going to happen? At some point, it's going to have an impact. So for those of y'all that say, oh, you feel just like her. I don't think that a woman should pull away. I think that a woman should do the exact same thing, no matter how she's treated. You trying to put somebody else's gas mask on. And all they do is trying to get you to the sniff on chloroform. They're trying to put you out so that you blind to your boundaries and your worth. Look, your distance should correlate directly with his disrespect. Honestly, at the point that it becomes disrespect, he already playing a dangerous game. But the point that I'm making here is normalize self-preservation. Normalize self-preservation. There is no need trying to force yourself to be in a relationship, stay in a relationship, keep showing up, etc., etc., etc. And this person ain't doing nothing but trying to make it harder and harder for you, test your boundaries, whatever. You pulling away is not spite. Stop feeling guilty because you realize, hey, look, I gotta go protect myself. This person I'm trusted to protect my heart, protect my mental health, ain't doing it. I gotta protect myself. In any other situation, if you work a job and your job performance is lacking, what they gonna do? They gonna give you paid leave. If not, fire you. But let's say it ain't that deep just yet, but it's been consistently some kind of behavior issues, some type of performance issues. What they gonna do? They gonna put you on paid leave before they just outright fire you. It's a little bit less that you get right now. You get a little late on the payments on your credit card. They at minimum are going to reduce your credit limit. You're not going to have access to the exact same amount of money or spending power that you once upon a time had. They will reduce your credit limit. Anytime you're not upholding your end of the bargain, there is some level of attrition that must happen. The same thing goes for a relationship, or at least it should be. Now in a marriage, it could be an outright separation. But I believe in any situation, there needs to be a point where once you have done your part, I have to stress that as a prerequisite. Because if you ain't doing your part, then yes, it is spite. It is being petty and immature. But if you've equipped this person, if you've repeated yourself over and over again, if you set it up 100 different ways, if you've pleaded and it seemed like everything that you're supposed to be doing right and you're doing it right is only making the situation worse, now it's time to put those boundaries into action, not just words, not just warnings, not just pleads. If you speaking on your boundaries and you explaining yourself how something is affecting you, if you are, just continuously communicating, etc., etc., and it's only making things worse, like the more that you talk, the more comfortable they get letting you talk basically to yourself. At some point, you're going to naturally do it, but I'm talking to those of y'all who like to fight yourselves and all of that kind of stuff. No. It's going to preserve, because here's the thing. The more disrespect that you tolerate, the more mistreatment that you tolerate, the more rudeness, the more neglect, the more betrayal. Anything that you tolerate long enough is eventually going to become your tolerance. That's the whole word. You tolerating it, and eventually it becomes your tolerance. It's just like if you have a hard time going to the gym, at first, it's going to be really tough, but you go anyway. Eventually, if you keep going, it's not going to be so hard anymore. It's not going to be so tough. It's going to become a way of life. It's going to become a habit. Then it's going to become like something you just can't go without. That's just how our brains work. That's how our bodies work. The exact same thing goes for negative things. You keep letting somebody cuss at you. You keep letting somebody talk to you crazy. You keep letting somebody disrespect you straight in front of other people or humiliate you when y'all are out in public. At first, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a little cringe. And after a while, it's going to become a habit. Then it's going to become a lifestyle that this is how you get treated. I'm not saying the man got to be perfect or whatever else. And I'm not saying pull away if this is his very first or second offense. I'm not saying that. Absolutely have some endurance, have some grace, be able to forgive. You got to be able to forgive. I'm not trying to put you up on no unrealistic expectations. But when a man realizes he's done something to hurt somebody that he cares about, he's going to be introspective. He's going to listen whenever you bring it to his attention. He's not going to drive you and push you over the edge, over the limit, and then blame you for falling off that cliff. He's not going to do that. And it's important that you nip this in the bud whenever you first see it in a relationship. I'm not saying that it's ever too late to raise your standards or assert yourself in terms of what you want and what you don't want, etc. But it's so much easier if you don't even allow a person to get comfortable playing with you. So much better if you don't even let it get to that point. So some examples. I'm not talking about deal breakers. Let's just say when y'all get in public, he intentionally undermines you. He waits for a little joke he can make. He waits for something that that you say to try to get people side-eyeing you, to bring up something really personal that was strictly between the two of you, but it's meant to make you look crazy. That is a form of disrespect. That should correlate to distance if you've already told him. I mean, sometimes it ain't even got to be that you already told. But I want to encourage conflict resolution before I encourage, this taking on a different form. Because this should be, honestly, this should be like probation. Before you finally decide to leave, this is the last step. And you can see what happens with that distance. After you've already exhausted communication. Yeah, I'm repetitive because I want to be very clear. I'm about healthy relationships, not a gender war. But ain't nothing worse than trying to keep the peace in your house by being at war within yourself because you're not honoring yourself. So if a man is publicly undermining you, making little belittling jokes in front of your friends, his friends, the family, etc., you have every right to say, hey, I don't want to go on that next social gathering. I don't want to go out with you and your friends anymore. I don't want to go hang out actually. No, thank you. I don't want to talk to your mama, your sisters, your friends. At least until he's willing to make it right and take forward progressive steps to earning your trust back. Nothing is petty about that. Nothing is spiteful about that. That is called self-preservation, especially if you gave him the opportunity to protect you in those situations and he repetitively fumbled it. He want to hurt you and then blame you for your reaction? Yeah, I'm going to keep it real with you. Or if he dismisses communication. Yes, that is a form of disrespect as well. If he consistently, interrupts you or scrolls on his phone while you talk, not like because he got bad attention span or ADHD. No, I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about the moment you saying something that's uncomfortable for him, all of a sudden he got all this stuff to do on his phone. He's intentionally trying to dismiss you while you're talking. You have every right to say, I don't want to share with you anymore. I want to limit my exposure to that type of behavior. It has an impact on me, especially if you've already communicated in the past. This is for repeat offenders. Now, if it's a deal breaker type of situation, I think the deal need to just be broken and you just need to leave. But even these little petty, small, seemingly minor things, they're allowed to snowball into big things, right? And they have a big impact on you. No, preserve yourself. or if he likes to push on your boundaries, this automatically makes him a repeat offender because you had to even assert what the boundary was. Let you know had to be some type of offense that brought it up 9 times out of 10. So he wants to push on your boundaries, making plans without consulting you or expecting you just to just volunteering you for stuff. You ain't got to keep accommodating those last minute plans. You can make your own schedule a priority. The truth is, your unavailability, if a man isn't considering your schedule or anything like that, your unavailability is going to teach him that disrespecting your time means he's eventually going to lose it. Now, how much of that is totally up to him? How much of that is totally up to him? The same thing goes if he tries to invalidate you emotionally. You crazy, you tripping, you're sensitive, okay, that's fine. Like if you've already told him, hey, whenever you say things like that, you've done your part. Whenever you say things like that, it makes me uncomfortable. It makes it very difficult to feel safe sharing with you. Even if you do feel like I'm overreacting, I'd much rather you lead with more compassion and more consideration and validation than leading with snarky comments or dismissive remarks in any kind of way, because that's tugging at my emotions and it's making me feel a certain way emotionally. Hey, if you want to play that game and it's not a complete deal breaker yet, but you tired of it, distance yourself. Now you got to talk to your friends more. Keep it surface level with him. And if he honestly don't care, okay, now you got to complete the job that you started. Now it ain't just distance. You're done. Maybe y'all ain't even in a relationship and y'all just in the dating stage. And he already starting off wrong. Maybe because y'all seriously dating. But he dodging the question about when you guys are going to, move on to the next phase of the relationship. He just keeps it ambiguous despite your clear desire for a relationship, but you trying to give it some time. At some point, his lack of interest and definitive, clearly expressed interest needs to result in you pulling back your interest. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody. But at that point, you need to reinvest your energy because your confidence correlates with your commitment. And he's not giving you confidence. Okay. You can't make him. You can communicate. You can let it be known. But after 1 or 2 times you saying it and you just keep repeating yourself, you're basically disrespecting yourself. And I'm not saying this means that, if you done had the situation multiple times and something's wrong with you, person disrespecting you 99% of the time has everything to do with their internal value system, not your work. Typically, when men are habitually disrespectful to anybody, because most men, the good men, healthy men, are just going to leave a situation before they even get to that point. But knowingly, you've made him aware and he's habitually disrespecting, he's disrespectful. Don't mean that you did something wrong. Now, in order to hold any kind of boundary, you got to be very mindful about your own attachment anxiety. Some of y'all have a hard time holding your boundaries because you have an attachment anxiety. And that's where you feel so guilty, but really it's you suffering from the loneliness because without this person treating you so bad, you just don't know what you're going to do with yourself. You might have to face an ugly part of you so that you can honor the best part of you. I hope that's making sense to somebody. And be very mindful of when they try to twist it around on you as if, man, you just over here tit for tat, you over here punishing, you over here. No. If you've done your part and you've exhausted yourself and it's starting to impact you more and more and more, despite your best efforts to communicate, your repetitive efforts to communicate, distance is protection. That's literally a boundary. You're just now widening that boundary. The boundary was supposed to be their respect for you. When you said, hey, don't play with me, don't disrespect, don't make me feel like I'm so small for expressing my truest feelings to you. The distance between you and ever encountering that was supposed to be their respect. But since their respect is non-existent, now the space between you has to distance you from that type of experience. So when he attempted, to guilt you about creating the distance, or, maybe he give you a little temporary, a good behavior just to follow by more disrespect all over again once your guard is back down and he getting what he want from you, maybe accusing you of playing games, or, any kind of minimizing behavior that caused your distance, he doing it again and again, or love bombing you to break through and remind himself that he has power over you. Now you got a real problem on your hands. You got a decision to make. I hate when people come to me asking what they should do about the 50th time somebody done disrespected them. I ain't got no advice, because you already know what the answer is. You just waiting for me to say what the lesser version of you that you've now come into agreement with wants to hear. You want the comfortable answer. I ain't got one. But if I have any advice for anybody in this situation, I'd say ask yourself, would you advise your daughter to tolerate what you're tolerating? You see, we could be a bit more objective and more protective over our babies. But there's an inner child in you that also needs protecting. Would you advise your daughter to tolerate that exact same behavior? Has his behavior shown a consistent improvement or just temporary adjustments? Those answers will give you all the clarity that you need. You can save yourself the time. You ain't even got to watch one of my master classes. My master classes are dope. You ain't even got to watch one. You ask yourself those questions, that's going to give you clarity. Now, there are situations where a man is just off his game. Maybe he done lost priority. Maybe he's so used to women that went for this kind of thing. Maybe this, maybe that. And there's still hope for him. And maybe it takes this distance to show him that, hey, this is really impacting this person. Well, you're going to know if there's any hope for this man to kind of course correct if he starts initiating conversations about his behavior. He doesn't wait for you. He doesn't imply that he honestly could care less about this distance unless you're the one that comes back begging. The changes that he does make, they're consistent. Not just when he wants a closer access, not just as a knee-jerk reaction to feeling you pulling away. But even before it gets to distance in other situations, he's already, hey, let me go in and be on top of my game. I made that mistake in another situation. I ain't doing that no more. Especially if he respects the distance and he's not trying to force you to prematurely just feel comfortable all over again. Because again, I don't think that distance 90% of the time, whenever you do it from this place, is going to be because you want a reaction. That's not what I'm talking about. React in a certain way to get a certain reaction out of him. No. This is literally a self-preservation. This is an innate protective mechanism that we're designed to do, but society will shame you. And even if you're married, I say the exact same thing applies. And it's very important in this situation, before you even think that, oh, this man's making progress, that he expresses and shows genuine understanding of why his actions were disrespectful. Otherwise, he's going to do the exact same thing again. And I'm just telling, because it might be so deeply ingrained in his habits that he just honestly, of why his actions were disrespectful. Otherwise, he's going to do the exact same thing again. And I'm just telling, because it might be so deeply ingrained in his habits that he just honestly, he don't even know no better. But that's not your problem. That's not your problem. So in the very beginning, you got to be very mindful about the disrespect that's disguised as jokes, or testing boundaries just to gauge a tolerance for them. What I call temperature checking. Checking your temperature. Little innuendos, ambiguous statements that blur the line of disrespect from the very beginning. Nip that in the bud. Dismissive behavior that invalidates you over and over and over again. Or if you just notice a misalignment between his words and actions. Because then you have a man that likely hasn't evolved to that point where he can translate what he intends and what he wants and what he thinks is so right into consistent behavior and action. If he can't translate it into consistent action, it'll never be a consistent experience for you. You can't do nothing with somebody's soliloquy. You can't do nothing with somebody's TED Talk. That's not what's going to hold your heart. That's not what's going to protect your mental health. The experience that you have with him is everything. It's like ideas in business versus execution. And if the man has not evolved into an alpha male version of himself, And some men don't. But if he hasn't gotten there, you can hang that up. And if you're entertaining men and it's like, well, what kind of alpha male? How do I get an alpha male? There are 7 things that will make an alpha male crave you. As a woman, y'all weren't really taught this. Y'all were taught how to be the best version of yourself, how to not need a man, how to make sure you're financially straight, maybe even how to peep red flags. But as far as the things that make alpha males crave you, a lot of y'all weren't taught that. I'm just keeping it real. But I don't propose problems without some type of solution. That's why I did the masterclass. I already talked about it. And I broke it down. It's free, actually. Down here in the comments, secrets to attracting alpha males only. I just put the encore back up. If you want to hop on there right after this, click that link and register now. So the email is in there whenever we get done. Doing a Q&A at the end, so make sure you watch through to the end. But moral of the story is this. Your distance is valid. You feel yourself pulling away. You feel yourself getting repulsed by a man, disgusted by a man. You feel yourself shutting down. The attraction isn't there. The comfort isn't there. It's valid. I'm saying the first, second, and third thing you should do is attempt to resolve that conflict, communicate, share with him, evaluate what he does from that. But if he's null and voiding all the nice little, nicely packaged and wrapped ways of resolving conflict, at some point you got to make sure it doesn't result in conflict within yourself, because you know that you're not holding up your own boundaries. You know that you're invalidating your own statements about what you will and won't tolerate. Now, you can't ask that man to choose you if you won't. But those are just my thoughts. If you believe anything that I said was true, if you believe anything I said was truth at all I ask is that you share it. I don't ask for y'all money. I got your back. But I do ask that you pay it forward. Don't be selfish. So somebody else on your timeline can also get blessed. There should be a little arrow down here. Hit the share button if you feel like something I said was true. And if you want more on that topic of how to attract alpha males only, man, I made it so simple for y'all. I'm talking about you're going to see results in the next 24 hours. If you follow the 7 strategies that I gave out. And I put them all in this free masterclass, Secrets to Attracting Alpha Males Only. The link is down here in the comments, also the description. Wherever you see the title at, look for the description somewhere. It'll have a link.